I'm going to quit my job. And I suggest you quit your job. Then go and find another job, so you can quit that job.
But sometimes the times are in front and we're behind, and it's hardcore, bro.
Well, first of all, welcome to the Trying Harder podcast. Shout out to the Shabs for my theme music, which I will.
Nice one.
We love them, the Shabs. You obviously love them. Everyone loves them. As a human being with hearing capabilities, you obviously love them.
I'm very glad that they made some money on that Thunder Fund campaign of theirs, because shit, they were hit like hard, man.
What an absolute shit show, and they reached their target. But now they've got some issue where they had a rental car, and they obviously couldn't return it to the place that was, supposed to take it from place to place and then leave it at the end. And so they had to abandon it where they were and get to the airport and get home. And they forgive me if I get any of the details wrong, but I spoke to John the other day, and they contacted the rental people and said, look, we've got to go home to South Africa. We're leaving the car here at this address. And they were like, no, cool. And now they've been being charged for it the whole time. So they've got a 20 or 30 grand rental car dispute with a rental company somewhere in Europe. But apparently they've insurance are going to cover it or something. But yeah, those oaks, for the people who don't know the story, they paid for this big tour all over Europe. And then they kind of had to pay for it up front. And then the shows they were going to pay for the tour. And then as they got there, Europe started locking down, South Africa locked down, and they had to emergency come home. But the chums in the rock scene were very lacquer about it, and they put up a Thunder Fund thingy, and they actually managed to pay for it. So everyone who wasn't, well done.
I'm very stoked for them, because I know the pain of touring in Europe and how expensive it is. It's crazy. It's insane. And if you actually go there and fund it yourself and you don't make any money, I know how hard it must be. So I'm stoked that they came in cool. And maybe if the car is a problem, they must just never go back to Europe again.
Yeah, that's what that Joel was like with Randy Bly from Lamb of God, when he when a fan died at one of their shows also in Czech Republic. And
I remember it.
Yeah, they didn't even know that the oak had been hurt, let alone that there was a charge or anything like that. And then 3 years later, whatever, they land in Czech Republic, and they check there's a delay letting people off the plane, and they see military oaks, and they're like, some shit's up, some interesting shit's going on here. There's military O's on the plane, and they come and they arrest the singer, just the singer, for murdering the oak who stage dived and landed on his head. And they also got him out on bail, and he came home after a while in prison, and then he chose to go back and stand trial. And all they had to do was just never go back to Czech and 2 or 3 East European countries with extradition. And he went. He was like, I want to tell the family I didn't kill their kid. So I don't know, man, if the Shabs want to go and face trial for car theft, they can. But on the topic of touring, we were discussing when we talked about doing this podcast, that we met when you did your first tour out of Cape Town, and that must have been 2002, 3?
Dude, I think actually it was the second one, but close. And because I know we started in 2003 in December was kind of our first official show. In February we went up for the first time. And we definitely didn't play Cafe Barcelona on the first trip. But I think it's the second trip, 2004, I think around April.
I just remember that Kervin Cotter, who was one of the main cananes at Blunt Magazine. Blunt Magazine was kind of quite English-speaking orientated, just in the sense that the main oaks there were from Durban, and there wasn't a lot of punk rock, metal, hard rock kind of skater, surfer tunes in Afrikaans at that stage. I don't think there was actually fucking any. And he was like, there's a fascinating thing going on, Gordon. And I don't even remember if it was Blunt Magazine or Make Some Noise, but I'm pretty sure it was Blunt Magazine. I almost certainly have that article somewhere here. But he just said to me, like, you've got to go check out this insane thing that we keep hearing about and basically find out, like, what the fuck's going on. And, like, there's these Afrikaans O's from Belleville. The rumor has it they're completely insane. None of us have met them. Apparently, like, it's chaos at their shows. Just like, I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's kak. Some people say it's fucking terrible. Some people say it's the next best thing. Go check it out and report back. And my life was never the same again. I'll never, ever forget that show because it was just such total chaos. And it was in, like, a little Italian restaurant.
Yeah, it's like a little theater, like 100-seater, I think. And I think we had probably about 30 people there that day. So it wasn't very pumping. It wasn't one of our first pumping shows in Pretoria. It was one of the first empty ones. And I think it was like midweek or something.
All I remember was just thinking, like, I have no idea what to make of this. Like, you oaks looked like you were on a mission to kill yourselves on the stage, like to die of whatever, like heart attack, intoxication. You vomited on the stage, which used to be a big thing for you.
Yeah, it was very normal. It happened like probably every show at that stage.
I've seen you do it. I can think off the top of my head of at least 6 times I've seen you do that. Metallica 2006 Coke Fest in Cape Town for sure. I think, did you play the Joburg one? I think you vomited at that as well. No, just the Cape Town.
I vomited there, but I didn't play there.
No, you vomited spectacularly at the Cape Town one, and then you couldn't get you were like obviously a performing artist, but you'd managed to lose or more likely give away your accreditation. And there was like a little Nando's VIP island of Lacanus where shit was free and there was food and booze. And I was like trying to smuggle you into the backstage, even though you had more right to be there than me. And they ended up passing you booze over the balcony thing, over the little railing thing. And then eventually they asked me to leave as well. So we all managed to get kicked out of the fucking backstage, even though we were supposed to be there. But
dude, I remember that. I remember that day very well. Obviously we got in a bunch of our friends, and eventually I was outside screaming at the bouncer, "Let me in, I played, yeah. I was in like that kind of state. And I looked over the bouncer, and there was a friend of mine that had nothing to do with the show whatsoever, getting a massage from someone, chilling with a whiskey in his hand. I was like, what happened here? What happened?
I remember because like I had like the whole press pass thing from the FHM, and I had the right tags and you had the right tags, and I ended up getting kicked out for trying to pass you and a couple of other people fucking booze, and we both just ended up like among the masses. Not that that's like a problem or anything, but looking at each other and screaming like, how did we fuck this up? We had free everything, and we somehow, now we like, the bouncers are after us. But that Cafe Barcelona show, my favorite memory of that is that I had about a quarter of a bag of weed. You said to the audience, like, we're near the end of our tour or something. We're completely out of money. We don't have any booze. We don't have any money, and we don't have any weed. And we've got written CDs. And if anybody wants a CD, they're like 25 Rand, or you can buy us booze, or you can give us weed. And so I had like half a banky of Jut or something. No, I wouldn't have been Jut. I mean, I had standards, but it was average fucking weed. And I then came and I traded it with you for you Oaks for a CD with like a scribbled fucking thing on it. And I actually, like, there's a possibility I might still have it because I've got all my CDs like packed away in a box out of their jewel cases, you know, just like if you take a sandwich bag, you put the CD, the artwork thing, the front and the back artwork, and you wrap it. You can get about 100 in a shoebox. So I might actually still have that. I hope that I do.
Shit.
But,
you must go look, bro.
And then we had an interview lined up with Yerks, and everybody was happy to do the interview except Snake. Snake was not having it. And it was his moment. It was Snake's moment to like not talk to the man. Like he was like, I don't talk to the press. I'm not interested. I don't want to do interviews. I'm not selling out like that. And like,
dude, I remember it very well. I remember it very well. Sitting at those upright, like those high tables close to the bar. I remember the way you looked. You know what I mean? I remember all of that. It's classic.
I do as well.
Classic memory.
And then I think we just had a series of like running into each other all the time after that. because I used to roll with some of the Joburg bands just because I liked the music and they seemed to were my friends. I've never been like a big star. It's a combination of never being terribly impressed if people are famous. And also like never having the intention of trying to be with the cool kids. I just happened to be friends with the guys in Pestroy because we kind of studied and went to school together.
Yeah, you hang out with them a lot there.
Yeah, and those oaks are just the absolute fucking kings. And it's a thing that I've thought about a lot is that, like, in my opinion, musically, the best bands that this country's put out, certainly in my lifetime, have tended to be the best oaks. Like Fuzzy Gish, Forkoff, Pestroy, those are like some of my favorite bands ever. Not just with the caveat of like, for a South African band, they're very good. It's like 3 of my favorite bands of all time. And they're just like good oaks. And I think that you oaks have, Forkoff, and then you guys with all your spin-offs and whatever, you guys have made a real currency out of that. Like, and obviously it's not like a strategy, but like you've always just been really nice guys, except that first time I met Snake when he was a Durst. But he's made it up to me, tenfold since then. I absolutely adore Snake. He's the best. He's my favorite out of all of you, but actually
he's actually such a social guy, so that's kind of out of character.
Yeah, and I think he'd been looking forward to his moment to tell the press to fuck off. And I'm like, dude, I'm just like a varsity student that getting $300 like petrol money to talk to you.
What magazine was that? What mag was that for? Sorry, bro.
It was either Blunt magazine or Make Some Noise magazine, because like while I was still studying, before I did an internship at FHM at the end of my degree at Vega. Like I was supposed to go to an ad agency, but they let me go to the magazine because I'd been writing for magazines, and I'd probably had like 7 or 8 articles over that last year of studying published in Blunt magazine, purely because I was friends with Pestroy and 16 Stitch and those guys. We all studied together. So I went with them on a tour to Durban once because they just were like, all right, well, there's space in the car, come with. And that became my life for about 10, 12 years. And then I met Curve, who was the O from Blunt. And then he was like, oh, yeah, apparently you write well. Like, we'll give you like $300 to write a thing on 16 Stitch. Then they were like, we liked your thing on 16 Stitch, write a thing on the Narrow. And then like I went and I met them in Pretoria. And like the whole big deal of the Narrow at that point was that they had like, it was a breakaway from Not My Dog. And Not My Dog was like heavy music royalty.
Yeah.
So it's like some people already hated them for being the Yoko Ono of Not My Dog, and other people were like, it's a breath of fresh air and they don't beat people up at shows. And I went and I met Honey that way. So it was, and then there was this magazine that started. So we had to talk about you, but there's this magazine that started in Durban by the Witch Doctor Productions Oaks called Make Some Noise, and we got like 2, and I wrote a lot for them. The idea was like do a lot of, we made two issues. Yes, I still got them, and the one like, bro, there's just no one checked the spelling. Like every word spelled incorrectly in the whole magazine. And the second one, they did get someone to check the spelling. And then we made a third one, but it never got printed. So it was either in one of those like.
I think it's that, bro. I think it was Make Some Noise, not Blunt.
I still have it. I still have all those magazines somewhere. So I'll make a point of digging them out. They're in a cupboard over there. I'll make a point of digging them out, and then I'll send pictures and stuff. But you said when I spoke to you the other day that you remember my description of you. I sort of quickly grabbed my juice.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what you said, but it was something like we looked like Bergies that escaped from the 70s or something like that.
It's accurate.
Yeah, I think it was very, very accurate for that time. We looked like we came from the 70s, and we were wearing each other's clothes, and we didn't really have any clothes. We were like completely broke and on this mission to play music. You know what I mean? Like no holds barred. That was all that was important at the time.
But that's the beauty of it. It's like by not giving a fuck, you Oaks built an empire. And like I don't like to blow smoke up your ass, but you are one of the people that it's hardest for me when you come up in conversation to not go, I know that Oak, we friends. Like me and him, we go way back, because it's like difficult not to want to name drop. But it's almost like by not being Dursers and by not having a plan to win everyone's affection, you Oaks are like the darlings of everybody, because the amount of goodwill that like you guys and the Van Fucking Tusties O's have got just from being nice to everyone while in fact, I remember some of the Woodstocks and Oppie Koppies, you oaks were just there to jaw. And so was I. Like, I had to write an article. I had to remember enough that by the end I could write an article. And like, I've ended up in the wrong province with you oaks before. I've ended up roaming around lost Oppikopi trying to fucking do all these kinds of illegal things. I've ended up in those bizarre bungalows that I didn't even know were there at the top of the Kopi.
Yeah, those things were amazing, I must say. That was like my favorite part of Oppikopi, staying in those rondavel thingies at the top, because you can just roll into the top bar and you can roll out of the top bar. It was amazing.
And like, not sleep at all because oaks were proper off their tits.
Yeah.
But I mean that it's a beautiful thing because like you oaks literally deserve it. I mean the kind of staying power of it. So that was when I saw you at that show at Cafe Barcelona. I just didn't know what to make of it. I couldn't understand most of it. Like I sort of was like, these oaks are kind of loose as fuck and they're not terribly tight, but that might be because they're hammered drunk. The singer sort of vomited in the middle of the show and then carried on. Bass player just does the splits and 360s all the time. I'm not sure he's actually playing. And the drummer for no reason. And then there's this one really quiet oak, it's just polite. But I knew like even at that young age, I was like 22 or 23. I knew like what real rock and roll like balls were about. And when something was like, you know, there were a lot of bands, I don't want to mention any of them and disrespect them because everyone was just having fun, but there were a lot of like pop punk spin-off bands. There were a lot of like bad new metal bands that were trying to like be Alien Ant Farm. And then there was UX just trying to burn the entire world down. I mean, if someone had handed you a fucking flamethrower on stage, you would have used it. That was the attitude.
Yeah, I think, yes, dude. Yeah, that time it really felt like us against the world kind of a thing, you know. And we lived in this little bubble, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like today, you know. There was no social media. There was nothing like that. It was like us in a van, you know. I remember we going on tour without a laptop. You know what I mean? So then you're on tour, and then you'll check your emails maybe once a week or after the tour. That's how that stuff works. You know, I remember like we had like 33 tens or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was such a different time. Exactly. Yeah, it was like such a different time, and you know the music industry was different. No one was really touring at the time when we started, so it felt like you know, we're on this mission, and we want to do something that's kind of important, but we don't really know what it is. We just want to get it. We just want to say who we are, and that was kind of what we did. I mean,
that's kind of again goes back to my point of like having a plan to just be real and be nice oaks. And in that way, not having a plan that worked out as like in retrospect the best plan ever. But like I won't say, because I was like an English speaking oak from the northern suburbs, right? Like I learned Afrikaans in school and I just had a bit of a knack for it. Like I don't have anyone Afrikaans in my family and ek's nie heeltemal tweetalig nie, maar ek kan Afrikaans gooi as dit nodig is.
That's good.
Yeah. But this comes from practice. You may or may not remember, because I'm amazed you remember anything, because we've done more Oppikoppies together than most people should survive. And I had a policy, thanks to my buddy Lou Robenheimer and you guys, that I would be Afrikaans at Oppikoppi. And I did it every year for many years. And like my Afrikaans mates kind of saw that it was not, I wasn't taking the piss. I was actually trying to get better at Afrikaans. And we're like Ankura Blackprop and you Oaks and Louis. And like, so I never, as a like, you know, proper Soti from the northern suburbs of Joburg, I didn't have like a racist issue or like hate Afrikaans people, but I saw them as very separate from me. I saw them as like the same way I see Hungarians, like they're kind of interesting and strange and probably quite nice. And I wish them well, but they're not from here. And the combination of you Oaks and your music and becoming friends with you, and also Louis Robenheimer, who's a mutual friend of ours, you know him as well, and Louis just ending up working at the same place as me, made me kind of realize like there's something magical and there's something sort of shared. There's stuff in this culture that's like part of my culture as well. And so you were saying that you Oaks just wanted to do your thing and be heard and fuck shit up and not have a plan. But like, I don't know if you realize that like not only did you kind of unshackle a generation of young Afrikaans people from being tied to a difficult past, but you also made a difference to a lot of English-speaking oaks who, like, in every show you play, there's English-speaking dudes who the only Afrikaans they know is every word of every song of yours. You know, I remember sitting with XK and Heilig when it came out and having Robenheimer explain to me what every word meant and just being like, this is the most fucking incredible song I've ever heard.
Yeah, I think we hear quite a lot of that people actually say we helped them pass English and matric and stuff like Afrikaans and matric. And for us, like it was like a wonderful thing because we wrote those first songs and it was completely just for us. I mean, we didn't think about anyone else than the five of us. And when we started playing it to our friends, we made like a little TDK tape. We recorded our rehearsal on a tape, started playing it to people, and immediately our friends was like, this is it, you know, this is what we've kind of been waiting for. This is the thing. And
what, you've got a tape? Like we have a tape.
And no, I mean like the tunes, they connected with the music and the lyrics and all of a sudden, like, we just realized there's so many Afrikaans people that feel exactly the same. And it's not like we were trying to be anything. It just kind of happened like that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's amazing how it resonated with everybody. I mean, I at that point had less than zero interest in any kind of Afrikaans music, largely because it was in a language I didn't understand, a culture I didn't identify with, and the genres were like, the best thing you got was kind of like Brandewyn rock and roll. You didn't get any like metal, and maybe there were some like very Zef metal bands, you know, with like leather things on their arms, but like nothing that my friends were doing. Now suddenly there's this like Afrikaans bunch of oaks who, despite seeming a little bit dangerous and like if they ever walk into your jaw, you've got a serious concern things are going to get broken or burnt down, or just lacquer oaks, and everyone's like very happy to have them. And then suddenly Afrikaans is a part of your life, and like you're trying to figure out what the words to this album mean, and it's like, I don't know, man, it made me feel less separate from the country I grew up in. I felt like, okay, well, we've got like race groups, and then there's white oaks who are a minority, and then we English speaking are like the minority of the minority white oaks. And now suddenly I just thought, well, you know, fuck. And then also I started like, you know, doing hip hop and battling against O's and going into town and like hanging out with a lot of black dudes. And suddenly I felt like, hey, fuck, I'm part of South Africa, and not just like this little island of European people that like are hiding in Rivonia, hoping not to get murdered.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Yeah.
And also, like, one of the things I remember from Cafe Barcelona, and for the next 5, probably 10, more like 12 years, was just the whole not give a fuck attitude, like, but also like a lot of inclusiveness. Like, you guys have always been fun to party with, but it really did seem, and myself included, like, I'm amazed we made 30. I think when all of us made 30, we kind of realized, like, oh, fuck, like, now there's got to be a sequel and we don't have a plan. And like any good movie that you didn't expect to have a sequel that then needs a sequel, you've got to kind of really carefully think what the sequel is going to be, because if you go too far off the original script, people won't relate to it anymore. But if you keep doing what you did in the first movie, it's just not sustainable. So like you kind of hit a point where you just like all of a sudden decided to live. I wanted to ask you about that. Like, was there like a rock bottom moment? Was it your wife? Did you suddenly realize you couldn't sustain it anymore? Did you not want to make music anymore? Like, was it a sudden wake up moment, or did you just slowly but surely get tired of nearly dying every weekend?
Dude, I think it's a combination of those things. I think, you know, like the last couple of years of heavy partying for me, I knew something's got to give somewhere, because things were just not going right. You know what I mean? It was like if I would have a big party.
But ever, yeah, things were just not going right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I would like get arrested, or I'd drunk and drive, or I'll fight with someone, or I'll you know, I have to say sorry to all my friends the next day. It was just like that kind of vibe, you know what I mean? So eventually I had like a crazy weekend that I like, kind of one of my lost weekends that I had plenty of.
This is like when are we now talking?
2014. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
it feels like longer, but yeah, so continue, please.
And then I decided, yeah, I'm going to just kind of turn the taps down a little bit. You know what I mean? And
you stopped drinking completely.
Yeah. No, I think it's better for me. I mean, I love the party. Obviously, I love the party. I was the head party animal. I loved standing next to the bar and drinking shots, but I think that was probably my downfall. We had thousands of those together. But
they were often free, which was like the worst possible thing. Like it was the best at the time, but it was the worst possible thing.
But like it was just like the negatives of massive parties were just outweighing the positive stuff eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you do get to a point, like I reached a similar point because I still jawl, but I just do it much less often. And I even find that like while sometimes it's still quite lacquer, like I had a big blowout with some friends over Christmas and New Year, and that was fun, but like I felt it for 10 days afterwards. And like I still do it, and it's still sometimes fun, but it's like every couple of months, maybe 3-4 times a year, I go through a little patch, and what it does is it reminds me that I actually don't really enjoy this anymore. I just miss it, but I don't actually enjoy it. And so you end up in a kind of a phase, and I think on either side of this phase is like some sort of like stability or death or insanity, where you realize you actually don't enjoy it anymore, but you're kind of doing it anyway. And you're almost like, oh God, like I have to do this again, or I have to face how cuck I'll feel. Yeah, it's fucking difficult, man. But you oaks have all kind of come out like entrepreneurs. I've got my beers. I've had
nice, man.
Yeah, I was like, Brew, when you oaks announced this, that there was going to be a Mortal Kombat fuck-off police car beer, those 3 words or phrases in one sentence, I was like, this cannot be. There's so many. It's like there being a James Hetfield pizza skateboard. Like, I just got like, I was like, listen, Snack, I haven't asked you for anything in a while. You must make sure that I get these things, and the Scorpion one, I have to have it. So he said,
are you a massive Scorpion fan?
Dude, I got the fucking giant Scorpion.
Oh my God, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, nice. I'm like a lifelong nerd of a few things, but my major nerdships are Mortal Kombat, Manchester United, Metallica.
I knew that one. I knew that.
Yeah, dude, but now
I can tell you a funny Metallica story, actually.
Bring the story.
That I haven't told you before, I don't think. We played with them at the Belleville Velodrome.
That was my best show. I've seen them 9 times, and those 2 shows were the best shows of theirs I've ever seen.
They were epic, in that small place. Like it was like 8,000 people or whatever. It was amazing.
Just big enough to feel like a proper legit event and not like a small cuck thing, but small enough that it felt intimate and fucking sweaty and awesome.
No, dude, that was also insanely good for me. I watched them both nights kind of from the side in front of the PA on the one side, and it was incredible. But we got to meet them, and I know you also hung out with them. I don't know, the previous time that they were here or something.
Yeah, I met them both times, but in the episode 3 of this podcast, at the end at Epic Story Time, I tell the story, my favorite name drop story ever, of how me and Lars got kicked out of that opium nightclub in Cape Town in 2006. But I chatted with him again in 2013, but it was just like an interview. However, we had to wait, and I'm sorry to block your story. We'll get to it now.
No, please.
Robenheimer had press accreditation, and they were running late, right? And there was a like barrier where you weren't allowed to go any further until they let you in, and a woman with a clipboard with the order of interviews. And there was right in front of us, on the other side of the corridor, a bathroom, and it had a sign on it that said, with a Metallica logo, that said, Metallica private bathroom, please respect our privacy. Mm-hmm. But the thing was, me and Robenheimer had been waiting an hour later than our time, and they were running late, and we desperately needed to piss. And the nearest bathroom in the public area was like a 20-minute mission away, and we knew that if we went to piss, we would get back and they'd be like, sorry, you've missed your thing. Also, we were up to no good, and a bathroom was useful in the situation we were in, being up to no good.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Leave the rest to your imagination. So the lady with the clipboard fucked off to go and deal with something. And she was like, sorry guys, we'll get to you now. I've got to go and deal with something. And the massive security, their bouncer, who had no sense of humor. We cracked one joke about like, hey, let's just sneak in. And he like came and lectured us like, I'll beat the fuck out of you. We went in, we had a wee, we spoke about religion for 2 or 3 minutes, and we came out and we sat down. And 60 seconds later, after we sat down, the woman came and said, "Okay, come." And then we were like, "All right, we're going to go talk to Lars." And we did. And then the rest of the jaw was epic. So, yeah, you were saying that tour, you did what?
No, so we played the Cape Town show the first night, and this is the second night we get our chance to meet them, like 5 minutes before they go on stage. So I don't know if you know, but they warm up backstage with a proper full setup.
Jam room.
So they're jamming there. We can hear them, and they come out and they walk towards the stage, and we get our moment to meet them. And the security ask our wives everything to get out the way. It's just the band, no one else, just the band and them. So it's Metallica walking up to Van Coke Cartel, and they're like super nice. Like Lars was like super nice, and Rob was so amazing. I think he's just so happy with his life. He was like,
because in 2003 they were like, "Listen, we're going to give you $1 million and you can be Metallica." And he's just like,
he was like, "Oh, I love my life. I love you."
But he actually is legitimate. They're actually all really lovely guys. I never got to meet James. I literally got to say like hello and shake his hand, and that was it. But I got to jaw a bit with Kirk and Rob and Lars, and they're actually the nicest oaks in the world. Like, and Lars said in one thing, not an interview with me, but I saw an interview with him once where he was like, "All you got to do is be a puss for 4 or 5 years in the early 90s while you go through a cocaine phase, and it sticks with you forever. Like, just be a puss for a couple of years while you go through a cocaine phase, and for the rest of your life, you're the arsehole in the band." But he's the nicest ever. So yeah, you were with him.
No, he was super nice as well. But James comes up, and you know, like meeting Metallica for the first time, it's like something like they're like larger than life characters. It's like cartoon or something. It's not real. It's like something you know forever, but you're seeing it for the first time. It's like that.
Yeah,
you know? So,
exactly. It's like the Avengers. Like, you know that
exactly.
you don't really think it's really real. It's just something that someone makes with a computer.
Yeah, so James comes up and he's like, he kind of behind them, and he comes up and he's like, "Yeah, so who's the singer? Who's the singer? Who's the singer?" So I'm like, "Oh, hi, I'm the singer," you know, like. So he said, the first thing he says to me is, "I hear they're going to tear this place down." So I was like, yeah, but apparently someone told him that they're going to demolish the velodrome, which still hasn't happened today. But at that stage, it was something that was going to happen.
Okay.
So I didn't know anything about that. So I was like, "Yeah, man, yeah. You're gonna tear this place down. You're gonna tear this place down."
Metaphorically, we're just gonna put on a huge show.
Yeah. So we were completely out of sync with one another. So he just looked at me and he was like, "Yeah, man, we tear it down every night." So I'm like,
you're just confused, like you don't know what to say.
I just got my moment to meet James Hetfield, and I made my name Arse, and then I went like,
brain shuts off, bro.
Yeah, then I was like, I come from this area, and it's so incredible that you're playing in Belleville or whatever. But I already made my name Arse. It's such a whack.
Like, you think about what you're gonna say. It's like when you first finally get laid, or you first finally get like a date with a girl that's way too hot for you, and you over prepare psychologically for it, and then you just like nothing you say comes out right, and then you just wish you could go and be cooler about it. Like I also when I had that interview, like after me and Louis used their bathroom when we weren't supposed to, I kind of started, and I was talkative because of the Bible reading in the bathroom, and because I mean a good Bible read makes me very talkative. I'm talkative to begin with, as you know. So I also gave them this whole thing about like, "Yo, you guys came and it was like life changing," and I reminded him who I was at that stage. I'd gotten thin, and I was the fat oak in the superhero suit, and he was like, "Fuck, I remember." And he was Lars mega friendly, like, and he remembered the whole thing. And I just sort of wanted to thank them for coming back. I was like, "You guys said you'd come back. A lot of bands say they'll come back." And I just like mouth vomited this, like, it means so much. And then I just said, like, "Please will you tell the other guys, like, that really, like, you know, to a lot of us it means a lot." And there was a curtain next to where we were doing the interview, and the other guys were there getting a massage, and they were like, "No problem, Gordy." And I was like, the whole time. But yeah, that's like one of the few moments I've gotten starstruck. Like,
yeah, that's very cool.
Never happened to me. But you have opened for Metallica with two bands.
Yeah. But that first time, obviously, we never got to meet them because we got kicked out of the VIP section. But I never even got to see them that first time. I was too wasted. I forgot to watch Metallica at that first show.
I went to Amsterdam last year in June with one of my best friends, Shanae, and like, I don't smoke weed because I used to be such a stoner, but it makes my already weight issue. It makes my existing weight issue like 10 times less controllable. And it also makes me like very anxious. I become like the most lazy stoner ever. And I'm just like, income? Nah, I'll just chill. And, I was in Amsterdam in June, and we were on our way to watch Metallica with Ghost, and I fucking love Ghost, right? And we'd seen them in Dublin a couple of days before, and like caught Ghost, but from miles away, Slane Castle, like dude, more people than download, like 70,000 people, and you're watching Ghost, like they're on a little stage. So this one was like a stadium show, and I smoked a joint. One joint, my first joint, it was the day after we arrived in Amsterdam. I'd never been to Holland before. And I smoked a joint, and we gave ourselves 2.5 hours to get to Cruyff Stadium and still arrived late and missed Ghost. Me and my friend, we took like 15 minutes to cross the road because we were like so scared. So the amount of shit that I missed, dude. I've missed almost every headline band that's ever played. Like I missed Bring Me the Horizon. I've missed Prodigy 3 times. I've been to 3 Prodigy events and missed them. And the only time I did see them, I took a combination. So I'm with my ex-girlfriend, who's a lovely person. You know Ingrid. I'm sure you've met her. Yeah, so it's just a legend of a human. And a bunch of our friends. And it was my job to organize MDMA for the Prodigy. Not for the Prodigy, but for watching the Prodigy. So like my mate that I get from, he gives me like 10 of them. And he also says to me, I know you've asked before for 2CB. And 2CB is like this bizarre combination of acid and MDMA, like if you really want to shatter your fucking reality. But it's fun, but it's serious. The first time I ever took it with Will from Fuzzy Gitch, and I kicked the person out of my house for not being real. I was convinced that this one chick was, and I was polite about it. I was just like, I know, you can't fool me. I know that you're not real. And then a frog, there happened to be a real frog, jumped across the floor. And then there was a toothpaste that wasn't my brand on my kitchen counter. And I was like, no, guys. Like, you can't trick me with this shit. There's no way there's a frog. There's no way I'm using that toothpaste. Turns out one of the Oaks just brought toothpaste. So I made this chick and her boyfriend leave. And like, so I'm watching the Prodigy. Everyone's had their MDMA. Everybody is like loving life. And the Prodigy starts, and I'm the only one who's like, nothing happening. So I'm like, well, fuck, at least I've got this 2CB that my mate gave me just as like a gift because he knows I'm looking for it and it's hard to find. So I took it. And as I took it, I realized that it's the wrong decision I'd made because then the MDMA stopped working. In my mind, the Prodigy show was a portal into space where the past, because I was busy watching a TV show called Fringe at the time, which is all about like multi-dimensional shit. I believed that the 90s were invading the present. And the only way that I could save us was to make Jesse Clegg, who's an innocent guy. I mean, he's, as well as I do, he's one of the most best oaks in the world, but he's not a sketchy oak. He behaves himself like a prince. But like, I made Ingrid phone him, and he had to fetch us from Woodstock because the only way to save the present from the past was for Jesse Clegg to be the oak that fetched us. And so he had played a show at Tan's Cafe that night, and he had to drive out to fucking Woodstock and fetch us because I wouldn't leave otherwise. Which reminded me of a story I wanted to ask you about. Is this true? Did you take acid for the first time and then get on a plane with Vaynant and then go through your first trip by yourself after flying on an airplane tripping?
No, it wasn't my first one, but the rest of it's all true.
Why? What happened?
No, I got wasted in Cape Town. There was like, I don't know if you know the place and Union that was on Church Square.
But it's a beer jaw, yeah.
Yeah, so we hung out there for meetings and stuff, and they had like this very strong beer. At that stage, it was kind of the first kind of craft beers on the market that I can remember. And I got a bit gesyped, and we were supposed to fly out to shoot a music video in Joburg the next day. And I went home, and obviously somewhere someone gave me some acid, and I thought, why not? Popped it, got onto the plane. was very chatty to Wynand until he passed out on the plane, and then things started to unravel. It was like a bit of a disaster from there on. And then we ended up in this guest house, but it was terrible. Hey?
You alone on the plane, other than the other passengers. Vaney doesn't want to talk to you because he's sleeping. And you just tripped on the plane and tried, because I mean, you're either going to laugh or cry, right?
No, dude, but the best thing, we ended up at the accommodation. It was like this terrible place. I don't know how we ended up at that place. It looked like Yeovil in the 90s. You know, I don't know. There was like this TV show. I can't remember the name, but it was like Sif. And I ended up on my bed alone. And I was trying to watch series to kind of fall asleep, and I could never fall asleep, and it became like 3 a.m, and I knew I had to shoot the music video the next day, and the director actually asked us, because we were partying so hard at that stage. He was like, "Please don't party the night before, because we need you at your best." So eventually, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm googling what do you do when you're on acid alone. So the first thing that comes up is never take acid alone.
Which is all the reassurance you need, right? That's exactly what you need to make you feel better, like taking acid alone. Don't.
It was terrible. I tried everything, and I had that complete running stomach from that vibe, so I had to navigate my place through that dark guest house to get to a toilet all the time. No, it was terrible night.
In like a crack den, apocalyptic fucking shithole. But how did the music video happen, and which song was it? Because I want to go watch that video.
It did actually happen. It was for I don't know if you know, we covered like a flash dance song in Van Coke Cartel.
Yes, I actually
Maniac. Yeah, it was for that video.
That.
Yeah.
I remember when you first recorded that, you guys came and played at Joel. It wasn't the Bohemian. It was the other one near the Bohemian, like in Auckland Park.
Back to basics.
Yes, back to basics. And there was that little, I want to call it a VIP room, but it was more just a shitty room on the side of the place where they put couches where I could take drugs after the show and be left alone while they were sweating. And you said, I remember it was the first time I saw that song, and I was like overly talkative about how much I enjoyed it. So in that video, is it the day after you spent a night alone with yourself in hell on acid?
Yes, yeah. It came off. The video came out. Everything was fine. You know what I mean? We got through that one as well.
You actually, in your various bands, in both Forkhoff and Van Coke, have got a proud heritage of just leaving people in places. Because you guys have left me in Potchefstroom with Kulani. You've left me in Secunda. You've also once accidentally took me away from a job that I wasn't supposed to leave. You were playing this fucking thing in Pretoria. And it was like a big, massive thing on the rugby fields there. And it was like they basically, because I mean, Pretoria, they put up like they turned a Forkhoff show into a festival. And I think like, a couple of the other bands were playing.
I think I remember that. I think it was called Maloney's Rock Fest. So they basically, it was a venue that threw a festival. I wish we could have those at the moment.
I could handle it, Joel. Like, it's hard these days to get me to go out to a show, but when I do, I like make a real event of it, and I'm gonna cancel less things. But there's big sport fields, Joel. Me and Lou Robenheimer, we go, and we've got like 2 or 3 other mates with us, and he's staying reasonably. We've got a brilliant photo of me and Lou that I think he's got a picture of at his house. Of that, but we go to the Joel, and then you guys play, and then I come backstage to like hang out with you, and there's the tour. There's like the now you oaks have got like the impressive venture rental tour van at that stage, with a trailer on the back with all the gear, and Angelo is like managing shit. Then I come and I tell you how much I loved it, and we talk shit and everything, and then somebody, not sure who, I think Snake, decides we all need, like, it's weed smoking, it's post-show spliff time. And so we all get in the van, and I'm drunk as hell, and we all smoke a giant spliff. And now the combination of tiredness, drunkenness, and that was also when, at that Jewel, there was a hot dog place, And you came up to me and you were like, bro, I need the toilet so badly, but no one's got toilet paper. And I went and I took all the serviettes from the hot dog place. I just went and grabbed them and gave them to you. And you were like so grateful. Bro, I've never seen an oak so grateful for anything in my life.
Thank you again.
So yeah, so that's a random memory. But I'm in the van. Now I'm drunk as fuck, and I smoke a few hits of this joint, and then I pass out, fall asleep, and the next thing you know, Oaks are waking me, and there's a discussion about like whose room is Gord supposed to be in, and I'm like, where are we? And then you actually like, what? Like, no, well, there's no space. And then it turns out like you all thought that I was coming back to the accommodation with you, or just didn't question why I was asleep in the van. Drove to somewhere 20 minutes away from the jawl. And I also, with my 3210, I'm like, Louis, I've got the car keys. And Louis like he's the last 4 people at the jawl are like the Oaks that are meant to be coming home with me. And then Angelo had to drive me on his own back to the jawl and then come back to where you Oaks were. Also, I went with you guys on a Van Coke mission to. You guys have got a habit of not using the accommodation. Like,
dude, but we didn't sleep all that much on the road at that stage, or for a long time while touring. We didn't sleep all that much. So I'm sure there was more than enough free beds.
Well, the Potch thing is exactly that's what happened. Like, we were going to come with you to Potch. I'd arranged for a friend, because I mean, it's only like an hour away from Joburg. So I'd arranged for a friend, Jeff Strodel, from at that stage, My Epic.
I remember Jeff,
was willing to come and fetch us the next day. So me and Kulani came with you, Oaks, and you were like done with Joburg and you were going to do Potch, and then you were going to, I think, go to Bloem, and then you were going home. So you'd rented this like backpackers, and we came and we met you there. And like,
dude, I remember this night. That was that place. It was a place called Paul Yas. Like right across.
A lack of backpackers for hippies, right?
Yeah.
So we go, and
terrible place.
Was it Fork or for Van Coke?
I can't remember.
But yeah, so then you Oaks play this little venue in Potch that's like just packed full of like Oaks who are so keen they're drooling at the mouth. We jawl and we get absolutely fraught, and then we go back to the accommodation and like we even jawl there a bit. And then it's time to actually go to bed. And you Oaks are like, it's like 4. And you Oaks are like, no, you know what? We're just going to go. And I'm like, but why? No, we're just going to go. We're going to just drive to the next thing. I'm like, that's the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. And then you just went. I swear. And then, like, we found, I think it was either Stevie G, legendary Steve Grenfell, the sound oak, or Jeffy or someone just like literally drove there and fetched us.
That's crazy, dude. Crazy.
So, but like the stuff that you're doing now, because we could trade stories forever. Like, do you find like you still have as much enthusiasm and passion for without the job? Because that's a difficult thing, bro. Like for me as well. Like there's a period when you kind of stop jawling or you quieten the jaw down, where you realize how much of your identity, not necessarily like your brand and what makes you cool, but like who you think you are, is like invested in this. Like, and it must be difficult to. It's almost like you, without reinventing yourself, had to sort of reinvent yourself. Like you don't vomit on stage anymore, and you're not known as the oak who's most likely to like, get killed.
Yeah, like that was something to get used to. I mean, like I thought that was my identity, you know what I mean? Like the drunk singer from Politica. That's all I thought I was, you know what I mean? But I had to realize that I had to make a switch somewhere, you know what I mean? It couldn't stay like that forever, because I don't think I would have survived it, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I had to deal with the fact that time was amazing and it was cool and it was what it was, but there has to be something else. And I kind of dealt with that in a bit of a transition period and got used to it. You know what I mean? I like now, I realize that the jawl is not more important than me actually playing the music. You know what I mean? Because it was definitely at a stage that it was more important to what the party was going to be like than actually being on stage and doing what you're supposed to do. So I think I'm better at my job. If you have to call it a job, I think I'm a better performer and musician, and I have just as much fun doing it. I love making music and everything that it takes to make music and the creation of new music and all of that. So I think I enjoy it actually more than what I did.
Yeah, I mean, because that's another thing. It's just like authenticity, and with the more recent Forkoff album, or there's kind of two now. Like, that must have been a daunting thing. Like, what was the time gap between Swanasang was what, like 2006 or seven,
2000 and yeah, you're right, 2006,
and
2006.
then
Yeah.
these two, the two new ones were 2 years ago, 2018.
2017 and 2018. Yeah, yeah.
Wasn't it like after 12 years of not making an album, like the Chinese democracy thing, the Tool, whatever their new thing is called? Like, I'm a huge Tool fan, and so much time has passed between their previous album and this new one that I've never got around to listening to it because it feels like it's going to be work. Did you feel like, how did you manage to, knowing that your oaks were all different oaks in terms of where you are in your life, but you're all still the same dudes? Like, how did you balance not trying to, because like if you look at a band like Metallica, like every album they make pisses off some of their fans, but also wins over new fans. So like, how did you have a plan for how to like get that right, or was it just like other stuff you've done before, where it's like not thinking about it is the best way to think about it?
I think we thought about that one quite a bit. I think the reason why that album happened, I don't know if you can remember, but we did this crowdfunder. And we actually got the money from our fans to make this album.
I put a couple of bucks into that. The amount of goodwill. No, I mean, it's just like, would you like to see another Forkoff album happen? All you have to do is give any amount of money to this website. I was like, fucking okay. Like,
dude, and that was incredible because we obviously knew we still had fans because we would play from time to time and we'd still have massive jaws, but we didn't make new music for about 10 years. I think we did like 2 songs in the 10 years. And we were kind of forced by our fans to make this album. So that made it easier to do it and actually get it out. So we didn't sit on it for very long.
Well, did someone else put the crowdfunding thing up, or did you guys decide?
No, we did it. We did it, yeah. So it was also for us a way to kind of do things independent and not getting a record label involved and stuff like that. And we ran it like kind of like an e-commerce store. So most people also got stuff in return. It wasn't just like fund us. You'll get shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but we thought about the album. I think we thought about it quite a bit, about style wise and what we were going to say on it. For me, obviously in that time I started writing. In the time that we didn't do Forkoff, I kind of started writing my own lyrics, like for Van Coke and for my solo projects, where Hunter was always the main writer in Forkoff.
I actually wanted to ask you about that lyric writing, because I mean, Forkoff is so poetic, but now also so is your own stuff.
Yeah, so that was also for me, to singing Hunter's lyrics. It's a massive privilege because he's such an amazing writer. But we had to talk about, what we're saying, because we don't feel exactly the same about everything, especially 10 years later. So we had to find on some things I guess we had to find kind of a middle ground of exactly what we want to say, and we had to talk about that, But
I mean, when you say a kleur in my hond, and the last time I saw you in person, ran into you at the airport. And you looked bleak, and we were both in a hurry, and I gave you a big hug, and I was like, how are you? And you were like, no, my dog just died. And I was like, fuck, pal. I know how much that dog meant to you. That sounded very much like you wrote that song.
No, that was actually full on Hunter's lyrics, the whole thing from top to bottom. But I think, he obviously incorporates what we would want to say in a song too. You know what I mean? Forkoff Poliska is a collective of 5 people, and I think he's got a dog too. He's got a wife too. You know what I mean? I think he just has the capability to sum up a situation very well and take stuff that we say to one another and put it in a song. It's
relatable to everybody, and so that's one of the things that makes it work. But did you I want to also ask you, you and Vadi are basically the James and Lars of South African music. You're this inseparable pair. That must be one of the ultimate lifelong bromance stories ever. How just give me some good stories from there, because the two of you you famously had a fist fight, but you basically married.
Dude, the first time I met Van, I was in Standard 6, I went to Belleville High School, and Wynand was in standard 8, and he was like the main coolest metalhead death metaler in the school. So I was like, I knew about this guy because we grew up in the same area, but I always knew it's like, this guy's Wynand Meyerberg, and he's like kind of dangerous, you know what I mean? And like it was one of my first days of school. I wanted to go into the history class, standard 6, and then someone grabbed me on my collar like this, and he pulled me over and he said to me, "Ek gaan vir jou fucking poes." That was the first words he ever said to me.
And he wasn't kidding. He just decided like you were the standard 6 lighter he was going to pick on.
Yeah, and so that like, and a year later, you know, when I was in standard 7 and he was in standard 9, our paths crossed again, and we ended up jamming in like some beach party in Kleinmond, and he liked my voice, and he was the first guy that told me I must come jam with a band. You know what I mean? So we.
How did you? I mean, were you not already playing with a band that he heard your voice? Because you guys started New World Inside together, right?
Yeah, but that was way later. This was like 1995 December.
So
right?
old.
In 1996, we played in a battle of the bands with a band called Hydrant. Because Wynand heard me sing on the beach, he said I must come jam, and that's kind of how I ended up in that band.
Oh, so you were just like singing outside in the nature. You were like, he didn't hear you at a performance. You were just drunk and singing songs.
Something like that. I'm like jamming Pearl Jam or Alice in Chains or Nirvana or whatever, you know, that time. And we ended up in this band. We played our first show together, and I got kicked out of the band after the first show at Belleville Civic Hall because I was so terrible, and I never wanted to sing again after that. But you know,
you got kicked out literally for being terrible. Like I didn't even sugarcoat it.
No, I was terrible. We did a cover of "My Friends Are So Depressed." You know that? Do you remember that? Chili Peppers? But I started it like an octave higher. My friend, and something like that. So then when the second line comes, it goes even higher in falsetto. So then it was a complete disaster. So I had to like turn around and start the whole song again. And I was just out of the band after that. So that was our first band. But dude, we've been playing music kind of on and off since then in bands. What was that? 2006? Where are we now? That's 24 years, dude.
96.
96, yeah. 24 years.
I see. Yeah, but I mean, it's also funny because there's another. I always like see the parallel with the James and Lars thing. You guys like, I'm not sure who's James and Lars in your equation, but like also when Lars first wanted to jam with James, James said, "No, you're far too shit on drums." And like some people would argue Lars still is, but I think he's a legend. I think he's a great drummer. He does what he needs. Like his drumming is perfect for Metallica. But the point is, like, he also kicked him out the band. He was like, "No, bro, you're fucking terrible," and they didn't jam again for like 2 more years. So. I was gonna mention something about. Oh yeah, like, did you like so like you've basically like now graduated to like Afrikaans celebrity royalty, and like the Francois Van Coke and Vriende thing is fucking massive. Like, how do you not become a puss? How have you never become a dus? Like, honestly, people get 1/4 of your success and become insufferable durses.
Well, I'm very glad you feel like that. You know what I mean?
It's just a fact. No one thinks you're a dus. There's universal constant, the speed of light, and people not thinking you're a puss.
Well, that's great. But I think if you are a dus and you get famous, then you become more of a dus. So that's a fact. And I think it's weird, like the punk rock thing, like that, where we come from, you know, that punk rock scene that we had in Cape Town with Hog Hoggity Hog and
legendary Oaks. I mean, just such good Oaks.
And Hoax and all those bands that were around, like pre-Folk of Politica. There was like this feeling, and that I guess it's the way that punk music works around the world, but the band was never above the audience. It was kind of the same organism. And I think that's kind of the way I still feel today. It's like, I'm just a part of this thing that happens. And I never want to see myself as anything above that. You know what I mean? So maybe it's that.
I mean, I don't want to sound like an old oak criticizing young people's music. And I know even in like the hip hop that I grew up with, because that's kind of my other life, drum and bass and hip hop. there's always been this arrogant, better than you thing. It's not new. But I think like it's become even more kind of like egocentric, the new like young people music. And I don't know, man, I feel like there's a missing sense of community. But maybe I'm old and I just don't know what these lighties are doing. That's cool. But you've like adopted that young, excellent singer whose name I've now forgotten and embarrassed about forgetting. I know her, the one that did so well on The Voice.
Tasha, yeah, Tasha.
Yeah, you've like adopted a youngster now.
Dude, yeah, like I was a coach on The Voice last year, and I never in my wildest dreams imagined I would do something like that.
But that's what I'm saying. You like cool Patricia Lewis male status, like Afrikaans people. You're like iconic, and you just this total like nutcase that sings songs, vomits on stage, and then is fun to hang out with afterwards, and always almost gets you killed.
Yeah, so I ended up on the show. Like, obviously, I didn't like think I really belonged there because I've never been to any vocal training. Like, I've never even thought of myself as a real singer. You know what I mean? It's like, and I ended up as a coach on The Voice. And you know what I wanted to get out of The Voice was like I would have loved to get someone that I can help and like just kind of help and guide through the music scene. And luckily, Tasha turned for me, or I turned for Tasha, and she picked me. She was the best out of everyone on that show anyways. I mean, she would have won anyway if it wasn't for me, but I think we had kind of a synergy and it worked out really well. And now I've actually appeared on her album. She's appeared on mine. It's like we can actually work together. Vainan's actually managing her career now, so it all worked out perfectly until Corona.
So, yeah, well, that's it. I also I don't want to focus too much on Corona because I also want this one day to be interesting when it's not the time of lockdown. But you said when I asked you to do this podcast, and like I always have this thing like where I feel blind asking my friends who are high profile or whatever to like do stuff because I don't want to make them feel like obligated. But I was like, listen, bro, like I've got this podcast. I dig for you to do it, but no pressure if you're busy. And you said something like, yes, I'd love to because I've been doing so many like not fun interviews. And obviously you don't want to single out any of the interviews you've done that have not been fun. But I mean, are you talking serious shit all the time?
No. I mean, at the moment, I think in this period, I don't want to sound like a dick, but I just think everyone is kind of doing something online. And a lot of it is not on a kind of a standard, I don't know, like just interviews with people that
like they're bored and they're trying to start something.
Yeah. So I'm not so keen on that. You know what I mean? I don't want to sound like
you also have the curse of being nice, so you probably say yes more often than you should. But Bru, I'll tell you what. You guys and Pestroy both did something when I was like in the FHM days when I was a round fucker like I am now, and that no one made merch to fit me. And e004 and Pestroy went and made me like size 4XL t-shirts and then came and dropped them off. And like I cannot tell you how much that meant to me. I still have my fuck off t-shirts here somewhere packed away, and like. Snake also tuned me like when he gave them to me, he was like, fuck, you don't know what a mission this was. I had to go myself and fucking put it on the thing and fucking do the thing. And dude, like, that's how you like make, like, even if we weren't pals and whatever, dude, like, that's how you make a fan for the rest of fucking time. And that's kind of, for me, always been an example of, like, e004 were big then. You were one of, if not the biggest rock band in the country. That was like Swana Sung days. And fucking Snakey drove while you were onto, Jesus, do you remember when we did the FHM Van Coke Hotel Coke Binge, which was a clever name for a fucking trampolining competition while drinking Coca-Cola?
Dude, I completely forgot about it, but it came back like that when you said it was an FHM. We didn't even have an
idea. We just thought we have to do something chaotic with e004 and do a story about it because we do that every time Off or Van Coke or anyone was in Joburg. Yeah. And we decided it would be a good idea to have teams on a trampoline and see which teams could down 2 liters of Coke first while jumping on a trampoline. Now, we all had massive hangovers. One of our oaks ended up with like a hemorrhaging nose. I think Jason fucking fell and hit his head, or he cracked his shin, or he caught some kind of injury.
Dude, I remember it. Crazy. I'd love to see that article. Crazy.
I've got it somewhere. I've got all of it somewhere. It's just so disorganized. But I mean, I've been meaning to have like an emotional moment. And thank you, Alex, for that T-shirt thing. I think I did at the time, but I just wanted to do so again.
Oh, dude, massive pleasure.
So we've got at the end of these podcasts, I've got a thing called Epic Story Time, where we tell a story from the road that's like chaos and fun and embarrassing, ideally, and we can change people's names.
And how is that different from the rest of the chat we had?
Well, really, this whole thing has been an epic story time, right? But my story is about how you Oaks gave me alcohol poisoning, and I've never blamed anyone else for my own excess. I've said like sometimes like I got fucked up when I shouldn't because I ran into Sean Velkemuth. So, but I never say it's his fault. Like Oak didn't put a gun to my head, but in this particular case, you did. We were playing Secunda Fest. I was playing with Death by Ninja, which was like my little metal band with some friends, and our whole goal was just to have fun and play with all the bands we loved, and we did. We got to share stage. We opened for you guys. It was like the highlight of our career at Secunda Fest. So, like opening for you at Secunda Fest being the highlight of a career, it's not like a Grammy Platinum career, but it happened. And then we had to camp there, and like we went to sleep at like 3 a.m, and I passed out in my tent, hammered because of you guys. And then after I'd fallen asleep, Kulani and Hunter came in my tent, grabbed my mattress, each by one of the corners, and dragged it out onto the grass, shook me awake, read me some Bible, and then took me to the bar and made me carry on jolly. So and I then carried on drinking at the bar, and then the jawl starts to close at about 4:30. You Oaks have got the van, and you, because of being rock luxury, are nearby in accommodation, but it's like this old school, like proper, like old, like face brick in here kak thing with bunk beds and mattresses and just cuck and old. And they had like this collection of really kitsch spoons, and you guys had all of this booze that had kind of somehow just been given to you, and it was all sif shit, like Bacardi breezes, just the worst things you don't want, the fruit flavored things. And we ran out of everything. We finished the Bible. We then lie on a mattress, and I'm never sleeping again. And just as I'm starting to rest, Johnny, who obviously never misbehaves, and whoever was driving your tour bus at that stage, wakes everyone up and screams, "Guys, at 7, we're leaving." And so you dropped us back at the camping grounds where everybody was packing up their shit and going. I passed out in my tent for about 3 or 4 hours, woke up, just me and Kulani, fields in all directions, one tent and one car. And I just bombed there for about 3 hours. And like I lay, thankfully they'd already cleaned up, because this was like the toilet of the festival, but it had been cleaned. And I lay there literally hugging it for about 3 hours. When the vomiting stopped enough that I could drive, we tried to drive back to Joburg. Now there's roadworks, and the main road out of Secunda, it's like you need to take a detour. We got lost. Me and Kulani drove through these tiny mining towns for 6 hours. Twice on that drive, I pulled over and started crying. And about another half a dozen times, I got out to vom. And then eventually we came up in this small town that had a golf course. And so me and Kulani, now this is me, this tattooed oak, and this black oak, roll into like this very Afrikaans tiny town, God knows what it's called, their golf club, where like Oza have played Sunday golf and are eating lunch. And we were just like, "Please help us. We can't find Johannesburg." And the oak's like, "Where did you come from?" We're like, "Secunda." And he's like, "How the fuck did you get here from Secunda?" And then we eventually got home, and I vowed it, I was never going to ever jawl again. And I ate 2 racks of ribs from Turn and Tender, and then vommed, and then slept, and then like this was, I called in sick the next day, and I took Monday and Tuesday off work. You guys gave me alcohol poisoning, and it was your fault.
It sounds like the good old days, bro.
You took me hostage. You kidnapped me out of my bed, made me jawl, and then left me in Secunda.
You have to have someone to jawl with. That's the way it works, brother.
Is there anything you'd like to add? Do you have a story you'd like to finish with that maybe no one knows about, or that you regret?
I actually told this. I told this story last night, so it's fresh in my memory. I thought it's a good one to tell. This is actually pre-Fok of Police cars. So I don't know if you are aware of the fact that me and Wynand were sound engineers before we started the band.
I know that you were a rugby prospect, but I didn't know you had a promising career in sound.
And I don't know if it was promising. I was like I was engineering the booze just as much as I was engineering the bands. Um, but we were like working at the Purple Turtle for about a year. You remember the Purple Turtle in Long
I
Street?
remember running into you there. I mean, I'm not even going to tell the story because it's just another story that ends in chaos. But yes, I do remember the beginning of Purple Turtle things.
Yeah. So one night we worked there, and after the show, Hunter was incidentally just with us that night, just hanging out. We decided we're going to drive through to kak-praat. It was kak-praat time, the Afrikaans festival in Oudtshoorn. And at that stage, it was like a super cool thing for young people to go do. Like, I think it changed a little bit over the years, but at that stage, it was this amazing mystical thing to go do.
Yeah.
So we bought acid again. This is another acid story. We bought acid in Long Street, got into Wynand's VW and drove to Oudtshoorn. So luckily, it never
everyone does. Like, let's take acid and drive to Oudtshoorn.
luckily, it never kicked in. So we obviously bought some duds or something along the way.
That's lucky.
Lucky. So we ended up in Oudtshoorn. We kind of get there as the sun is rising. So we stop somewhere. We sleep a bit. Wake up, and obviously we want to start drinking as quick as possible. So we go to the first bar, get completely wasted. I black out like I usually did, like first out of everyone. And when I wake up, we're on this hippie farm outside Oudtshoorn. Like there's these people sitting in drum circles and like smoking weed. And eventually we bought acid there again. And it's like liquid acid that's like dripped on a Rizla.
Oh, yes.
We swallow those things.
You want to be careful with your dosages on acid. So the best way to do it is to drop it with a hand dropper on a piece of paper. Yeah, safe.
Yeah, so we end up at this place called Rock Art, which was kind of the cool kind of hangout at the time with all the rock bands playing, and Beerskraal was on stage. I don't know, you remember that band?
Yeah, I do remember them. I never knew them personally, but I remember they were quite serious about what they did.
Yeah, so they used to wear like khaki outfits, but they sound like Buddha music mixed with ska. It was like crazy music.
I have catchy memories of something like that. Yeah,
crazy music to listen to when you're tripping balls. And then there was a band after them called Diesman. And that was the only time I ever saw them. And the singer was singing with a, headset mic.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So
like Justin Bieber vibe.
Yeah, not with a mic on a stand, with like a headset mic and playing guitar. So Merve, you know Merve Marchand.
That does a lot of your design. What a legend.
Yeah, him and Snake were there as well. So they must have been like 17 or something, because I was like 19. So they were probably still in high school. So
also another example of you, Oaks, just you bringing your chums with you for the jaw. Like you got some of the best visual art, some of the most like recognizable and impactful and influential stuff. And it's just because your chums just stayed your chums from high school.
Exactly, dude. Yeah, I know that. I know.
It's amazing. I mean, I love his artwork. So anyway.
I know those dudes since they were 13. I met Merve 13 for the first time in a spur in Belleville, and the first thing I heard him say was, "Can I have a glass of water?" Because they were so Americanized from all the skate movies that they were watching when they were kids. He couldn't help himself. Glass of water.
Because your first bands, I mean, we must get back to the story, but your first bands were like English singing. Well, actually, I mean, there's a few clips of New World Inside out there, little bits and pieces. They're actually pretty fucking cool. Like, it was terribly recorded, but it was good stuff. Just wasn't sincere Afrikaans music.
I actually heard a recording of New World Inside last week, and it's sounding terrible. But it was actually, at the time, it was probably the best recordings you could find, because we did it at B-Sharp Studios in Boksburg. So, and we went there specifically because there's good recordings came from there. So I think it was good for the time, but it doesn't stand the test of time, really.
But your story, you've had
my story.
Watch Beerskraal with Merve. You're 17.
this man is on stage eventually with a guy with a headset. So Merve says to me, like, why is this guy not singing on a mic? You know, you have to be passionate, like singing to the mic, like a proper mic. And I get fascinated with that story, and I start telling everyone around me in the bar, like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, why doesn't he sing with a mic? And eventually I just say it to the wrong oaks. And there's like these dudes in khaki as well. But I think they were like a rugby touring team or something, because it said like first 15 on their shirts, but it's like khaki. Weird.
Yeah.
And I tuned them about this guy on stage. The one guy just passes his beer to his chummy, and he sticks me one shot in my jaw, and I'm out, dude. Like lights out completely.
Oh, like switched off like a UFC fighter.
Honest, I've got this flesh tunnel thing here in my ear. At that stage,
many of my friends have, yeah.
I still had one of those in it, but he punched me so hard that thing fell out and it bounced on the ground like bong bong bong. Wynand picked it up, but as I fell down on the ground, there was a police reservist in the vicinity, and he picked me up and took me straight to jail. So
for getting punched.
I don't know. Like, I was obviously drunk and unruly or whatever, but I'm the one going to the cells.
You get knocked out and then you get thrown in Chucky.
So I get into the cells, but it's like those open cells, like, you know, the ones where you stay when you're drunk and disorderly. You know what I mean? So
those ones, yeah, they're my preferred cells for when I spend time in jail.
So there's like 10 other dudes in there, like, you know, like oaks that, like, most of them live on the streets, kind of a vibe, you know. People puking around me. I'm like screaming, like, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with you. I have to grab a blanket there that smells like tobacco and shit.
The blankets always smell so bad, bro. I think they don't wash them on purpose just for effect. I think sometimes when new ones come in, they like have to piss on them and, like, you know, vomit on them a little bit just to make. They don't want to, like, you got to get it ready for the cell. You can't just put a new one in.
But it was so cold, so I had to use the blanket. But anyway, I remember that smell. I'll never forget it. But eventually, I kind of make chommies with the oaks, and we sing "Don't Worry, Be Happy," and, you know, like, it's a bit of a jolt eventually. Everything's fine. I'm smiling when I leave there, like 10 o'clock the next morning. So I had like Wynand and my a girl that used to manage New World Inside. They were trying to get me out of the cells the whole night, but obviously no success there. We didn't know any lawyers that were any good. So I got out at 10 o'clock, but my mouth, the guy punched me so hard that I couldn't open my mouth. I couldn't like, we went to Wimpy, and I couldn't actually fit the burger in my mouth. So eventually we're like, okay, that was a hectic night, but, you know, we're going to stick around in Oudtshoorn for a couple of days. We're going to stick around in Oudtshoorn for a couple of days.
So far, so good.
And we're just going to party for a couple of days, you know, hang out. So eventually that afternoon, I go to the booze shop again to, you know, get the party started. And there's one of the dudes that were in the cell with me is begging outside the booze shop, like he's hanging
in jail.
Yeah, so he's like, so I'm like, yo, what's happening? How are you doing, man? And he goes, yeah, maar is lekker om jou hier te sien.
You got jailmates from Oudtshoorn.
So yeah, that was a classic hectic night. Acid in jail.
Look, thank you for coming on, bro. I really appreciate it. Thank you for talking openly about some of the stupid shit. I think it's safe to say that this has been a pretty comprehensive accounting of the chaos, and there's still even some stories we can't tell. But I'm very happy that you survived, because it wasn't always looking good. And
I'm glad you survived too, Gord.
So far, yeah, I got to lose a few kilos, but other than that, I've actually managed to put it together a little bit.
You've done it before.
Yeah, 4 fucking times. But Roo, honestly, like, if there's a human being in the world that deserves all the success and all the love, it's you. I'm so proud of you, and like, fuck, man, every time I see you doing another amazing thing and succeeding at something else. I just think like there actually is some fucking justice in the world. Like there's not usually, but sometimes there is. So thank you for just being a reminder to all of us that life can sometimes be fair.
Oh, dude, thank you so much for the opportunity to come hang with you a bit here, bro. Like I've been a fan of you since the first day I met you, like since that Cafe Barcelona night. I remember it vividly. Did you, you had glasses though back then?
Yeah, I got LASIK like in 2013 or 2015. But yeah, I did have glasses, and also like I remember it was like a big sort of press moment for you guys. Like for me, it was like I'm interviewing this band. They're like a big deal. I've got to like break the story, you know, like uncover the mystery of this new thing that people are talking about. And Snake had fully prepared to like turn his back on the media. Jurk's got half a bag of weed. I got a CD, and like from there we continued to just run into each other all the time, whether it's airports or festivals or jewels, and dragging me around on tour with you, because why not? And it's been a pretty good life, bro. I don't think I think if I get struck by lightning in the next 30 seconds, I can't complain too much.
Yeah, me neither, bro. And it's been a pleasure chatting to you, brother.
Anytime.
Dan, let's hope we can go see Rage Against the Machine together soon.
Yeah, that's another thing. We fucking both have tickets for the same Rage Against the Machine show in Czech. Not actually something that we planned together, but we both kind of posted. I posted on Facebook, like, I got tickets for Prague, and Robenheimer, who's also a good friend of you guys, he and I organized that together, and Gumpy from Pestroy, who's also your friend. So it was weird. It was like there were like 7 or 8 separate groups of chums that kind of know each other, that all just got it in their head that going to watch Rage in Czech's a good idea. So now that
you know why I picked that one. I was like on the website that morning, and it was the only one that had open ticket sales, and I was like, boom, I'm going.
Well, for us, it was we wanted to go to somewhere in Europe and not America, because it's cheaper, and because like America's lacquer, but it's fucking hard work. It's much further away, more expensive. So the first half of the tour was America. And the second half of the tour was Europe. So the European half made more sense because it's cheaper and easier, and also gives you more time to actually save for the trip. And then we thought, let's go somewhere that's the best combination of the end of the trip, so we've got more time to save. So it's like their last 2 shows were Czech and Krakow in Poland. And so we bought tickets for those 2 shows. And they were the Czech and Poland are like 2 of the cheapest countries in Europe, and they were the last 2 shows on the tour. So that was the whole reason for that. I mean, we just wanted to go somewhere cheap and give ourselves time to save. But we've decided, you, myself, Gumpy, I haven't actually asked Robenheimer yet, but I'm pretty sure he's going to also take the same route to keep our tickets, see when they reschedule for, check if we haven't like been eaten by zombies in the apocalypse, and if there's still a world and we still have income, we're still going to go.
Yes, damn straight. And I don't know if you saw maybe, but Lauren is pregnant with our second child.
Oh, so dude, I didn't see that, but that's amazing.
So I actually bought the ticket for me and her, and she wouldn't have been able to go now, but now she might be if it happens next year. So
if there's still a world and we all still have some kind of money, and the apocalypse does not completely annihilate everyone. I mean, it's jokes aside, like a lot of ifs. But dude, congratulations! I didn't know you. I mean, you.
Thanks, man.
You one of those things. It's like I always say. I've got a couple of friends, like my friend Taryn and my friend Beth, where it's like, thank you so much for having legitimately cute babies, because it's fucking awkward when your friends have funny babies and you have to pretend they're cute. Like you always posting pictures of you guys being cute on the internet, and I'm like, oh.
Oh, cool, man. I'm glad it comes across that way.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I also like, I don't know, as an oak that's isolated, I guess we cuck at ending this podcast, but it's all right. There's no time limit. I also wonder, like, as an oak that's single at the moment without kids and whatever, if I'm like very lonely, isolating just me and my cat, or if it's like, thank God. Like, because even the best girlfriends I've ever had, like someone wonderful like Ingrid, you know, like being stuck in a house with anyone full time. And like my mates who've got kids, they obviously all love their kids. But yes, I can see some of them are thinking like, I understand those creatures in nature that eat their babies.
No, I mean things get hectic and you don't have a lot of time. I mean, in this time that people think you've got so much time to kill, if you have a toddler in your house, you don't have that much time. That's a fact.
Yeah,
so,
thing. I forgot to ask a thing, and since we're doing a terrible job at ending the podcast, I wanted to ask, like, you guys are in bars now. You've got two, right? There's one in Pretoria and there's one in Cape Town.
No, just the one.
Just the one in Pretoria.
Yeah.
Which, to my eternal shame, I've never been to. To be fair, though, the last two times I got invited, well, the last time Andy Mack, who's just such a legend, invited me to Francois Van Coke and Finda, I couldn't make the date. And the last time, I think it was Yaku who said to me that the Oaks were going to be at Forkoff Bar. I also couldn't make the date, but I haven't been. So you've got a bar, you've got fucking Forkoff Lager, as those adverts, the one with Heinrich, those like old school beer adverts are so classic.
Oh, very cool.
Your businesses must be, and you live music performers. So is there any way that you could be any more fucked by this COVID thing? I mean, like, what if you had an airline?
Yeah, it killed us a little bit, but I think for us, like, we just have to reinvent immediately. You know what I mean? Like, I think like I kind of didn't deal with it maybe for the first 2 weeks. I was like, we'll play shows whenever it comes back. You know what I mean? But now we realize it might not be very soon. So we're obviously looking into doing things online as much as we can, and like different kind of performances and whatever we can do online is moving online. So I think it's just kind of forced us to do that quicker than it would have happened eventually anyways.
Well, check out, they're not really one of my favorite bands, but they've got a lot of good songs that I enjoy as a band. Like, you obviously know Goldfinger. They've been doing, they've got that punk cover of 99 Red Balloons.
Yeah, I used to love them, yeah.
That other one, don't want to be a spokesman, don't want to hear a spokesman. They do these, like, you can see that they're all in separate places shows. Those are super cool. John Shaban is basically playing tunes on the internet like almost every night. So that's also very good to check out if you're short of music. Even Metallica released one of their acoustic versions of Blackened, and it's like this chilled acoustic. So yeah, I'd be interested to see what your ex. Oh, dude, and you did a thing with Rickus. John Rickus is one of the funniest fucking human beings in the whole world, and he's another oak that's got a combination of being talented and having good at the thing he does, and just being a total non-doers. Like, I put that oak in some adverts a couple of years ago where, like, we didn't ask him to do it as a favor, we just didn't have a lot of money, and he was like, "Cool, I'm in." And he's the nicest oak ever, and like just was happy to be there. And like, I'm so happy that oak's doing well. But you and that oak together are funny.
Dude, I had this little TV show thing on CakeNet, and he was kind of one of my team captains. We played like little games, and he was like a team captain, and we kind of became friends through that. And he's just such a legend, dude. I'm a massive fan of him, and he's insanely big. I mean, like, he can fill up the Sun Arena on his own. Like, he's like incredibly powerful. I mean, with his following. So, and he's not a dick. So you get those.
You just see him like start. You just see him appear, and you start laughing. But he actually said he wanted to do. I discussed with him. I don't know whose idea it was, but I discussed with him maybe doing some sort of butt fighter, Hard Eddie, Jonathan. I want to like have a conversation with Hard Eddie and Jonathan and just see what happens. But anyway, Ru, I'm awesome. Go. You're a fucking legend. I love you with all of my heart, and I couldn't appreciate you more, my bro.
And I love you too, Gordon. Thank you so much. It was fun chatting to you, brother.
We can do this again tomorrow and every day and forever. And when the lockdown's finished, you can come live with me. Okay, bye.
Can I bring my family?
Yeah, if you must.
And I suggest you quit your job.